One Question is designed to give subscribers valuable insights on how executive leaders in college athletics think about key issues on their respective campuses, in their departments, or within their leagues and conferences.
Greetings, this is Ty Brown and welcome to One Question, where we highlight executive leaders in college athletics. Our guest today is Taurian Houston. Taurian is the Associate Athletics Director for Compliance at Rice. Greetings, Taurian. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Ty. I really appreciate it.
Now, Taurian, your experience, 5 years in a full-time position, spent 3 years as an intern while in law school, a year at the NCAA as an intern, totaling 9 years in college athletics in terms of administration, right? So, and compliance is your area, so you have a wealth of experience on that.
I want to say mine. I'm not going to take ownership over it.
Your experience is compliance, right?
Yes.
I wonder, for someone, law school background, compliance background, seem to like the area you work in, what area of compliance do you feel like is close to vest or has it had the biggest effect on you?
Yes. So during my time at the NCAA National Office, I had the opportunity to serve in academic and membership affairs. And during that time is where I saw a lot of the waivers that were coming through from NCAA membership. And most of them revolved around student-athlete name, image, and likeness. Obviously, one of the hot topics that we're starting to see in terms of student-athletes owning themselves when they come into the institution. And so when, seeing that in terms of some of these dynamics as it relates to student-athletes creating their own businesses and entities and utilizing their name, image in order to promote them. And, seeing that from the national office, and then fast forward, I get to campus. And when I was at Colgate for 3 years, great thing is you're starting to see these entrepreneurial programs and hubs and incubators being created on college campuses in order to give students these experiential learning opportunities. And so you have these students and they're constantly going after student athletes because of that drive and that opportunity to create something. And so now you get into the issue of, okay, well, have they checked with compliance? Because, 1244, the bylaw states that, for self-employment, student athletes can't use their name to promote their own business. And so now working with it in terms of, let's look at the waivers. Let's look at seeing if there's an athletic nexus associated with those waivers in order to really accommodate our student athletes. And when we realize that we don't want to necessarily take away anything that the normal student or the regular student on campus has the opportunity to take part in, yet when they are looking for the people who are most invested in these opportunities, student athletes seem to lead the pack, and we want to make sure that we are providing them with every opportunity to do so.
It's interesting you say that, especially with how big entrepreneurship has become in the last 10 to 15 years, where, like you mentioned, they have incubators on campus for the general student body to grow, and sometimes they put money behind these students to have businesses, and then the business may take off and become successful. And as a student athlete, I'm a student, and I may want to start a business, right? And it just so happens that I play sports, you know what I mean? And that's the big thing, so then I can't profit off of my name, image, and likeness, or even if I don't have a big name, image, and likeness, I still play for this school, so I'm restricted from what I can do. That's got to be frustrating, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, there were, over the course of 3 years, we probably had close to 10 or 11 cases where we were working with the NCAA in order to allow these students to take part in these opportunities. One comes to mind where it was a young man. He was utilizing his father's connections in terms of taking recycled material that he was finding on the beach in order to make clothing. 30% of the proceeds of it go back to cleaning up beaches in his hometown. So when they're creating these businesses, profit is not, the foundation in which they're standing upon. They have an interest and they're trying to figure out, okay, how do I maximize this interest in order to make it something that I can share with everybody. Another one is a young lady who created a nonprofit in order to assist students from her hometown in terms of having access to resources in the college space and higher education. And so when I'm thinking about that as a compliance administrator, you're hearing these stories from students, and you want to make sure that you can you're seen as an access or an advocate toward them versus an adversary. And in doing that, you realize that you allow them to achieve their dreams and achieve their goals and have that quality student-athlete experience that we're always trying to strive as administrators to create on our respective campuses.
Right. Where do you see that going? I mean, what's the trend coming? Because it's not going to slow down.
No, not at all.
Especially with the way people think in the industry of entrepreneurship is now. Like, this is just continually grow exponentially. So tell me about where you see that going.
No, I mean, the NCAA has been great in terms of affording student-athletes these opportunities where it's now a part of a list of previously approved waivers that if they are, if these businesses or entrepreneurial opportunities if they don't have an athletic nexus associated with it, then college campuses are allowed to apply these parameters regarding the legislation on their campuses in order to approve these waivers. Now we get into the realm of, what if you have that athletic nexus? Obviously, you grow up in sports and you see, a void in your respective sport. Maybe it's an equipment issue. Maybe it's something of a technology to assist you become better. And now, are we going to restrict them because this is the only thing that they know?
Now I have to make a choice.
Right.
Like, do I want to be an athlete or do I want to create this business which could be take off, or why can't I do both kind of situations?
Right.
Yeah.
No. So it's it's always these different things where because this is what they know and something that they are familiar with, are we restricting them? Are we holding them back from truly progressing as individuals on the campus? Obviously you want to make sure that, as a compliance administrator, I have to have that realist in the sense of, could people take advantage of that in terms of, outside boosters
and
or
people
other individuals.
Right. Even some of the student athletes.
Right, absolutely. Some of the student athletes, taking advantage of the fact that they have this platform and utilizing that platform to strictly profit and not necessarily look at it in terms of something as of interest. It's just like, this is a quick way for me to make money and for me to I have eyes on me now that I have this additional platform of being at an institution and being on this national stage. And so you want to make sure that you're careful. And I think the NCAA is really looking at different things. Now when you look at the Board of Governors working group created around federal and state legislation, obviously they're looking at name, image, and likeness from a different aspect in terms of businesses using student athletes to endorse them. And obviously the pay-for-play model is a hot topic, and you want to be careful with that. But I do think that is the direction that it's going in terms of, all right, then now that students, we've moved this far, we've progressed the needle in terms of non-athletic aspects. Now when we're entering the athletic space, are we willing to have that conversation?
What are we willing to do, right? Because when you think about it, right, which is a whole nother conversation, what is the reason that somebody feels like they see an opportunity for them to bring some money in, right? It's not always just because they're greedy. They're probably supporting a lot more people than just themselves, or they're probably trying to support themselves there on campus. So there's a whole bunch of nuances to this subject. And how does the NCAA, of course you interned there and you're probably heavily involved with it now, how are they advised by the membership? Like, what is your input to the NCAA on things you and other compliance officials see on campus?
Yeah, no. So there's several ways that we try to engage with the national office, because at the end of the day, everybody thinks that NCAA this, NCAA that, and this kind of this ivory tower model where at the end of the day, the NCAA is the membership. It's the several thousand institutions. I can't even remember how many there are.
But there's a lot, right?
But there's a lot of institutions that, and we're the voice. And so you want to make sure that as compliance administrators, because we are often, we are the ones applying the rules and trying to interpret these legislative matters, you want to make sure that voice is getting back to the people who weigh in on it. And so when you think about, committee work, and so I currently serve on the initial eligibility waivers committee, getting back and reaching back out to individuals to see, hey, here's some of the things that we're seeing from the high school model to the collegiate space. Are we educating them on the classes, the 10-7 rule in terms of the core course requirements? Then I'm currently now member of NAC and a part of the professional development committee, and we're viewing when we're looking at some of these committee spaces where rules are being decided, whether it be the fact-finding committee, whether it be legislative relief, whether it is the amateurs committee. We're trying to see, okay, are there NAC members serving on those committees? Because we want to make sure that with these individuals who are in that space and serving in those compliance realms, having those individuals on those respective committees so they can educate and they can say that, hey, that may be a very admirable way of thinking about something. Is it real, or is it, can we apply this? Is this an aspect in which we feel as if that this is going to be something that is a possibility? And so when we're thinking about that in terms of getting those voices and getting those individuals on the committees that really make an impact on the conferences and the membership, it's key that we ensure that we're having these knowledgeable individuals in spaces where they can advise and really be a part of the overall process.
My experience with the American Football Coaches Association is that if the structure is in place and the communication is good, usually when information comes from the membership, things can change, right? And so in terms of compliance, you guys probably hear stuff from all aspects of the industry, from coaches, administrators, to student athletes. Everything has to almost come through you guys. So how do you guys decide as a body? Because what's different at Rice is probably different at USC, which is different up at Washington, which is different at Michigan State. Tell me how you guys advise each other to decide on what needs to go to the NCAA.
Right, no, absolutely. So, when you think about a lot of the legislative proposals that go through the voting and with the Division I's NCAA Council, it's the conferences that are reviewing these legislative proposals that are being submitted from institutions. And so you often look at it in terms of, is this something of national significance? Is this something that is affecting only your institution, and can it be accomplished in a different way, whether it be a waiver process or maybe some type of a flexible interpretive philosophy, versus is this something that we're seeing as a pain point or something that is constantly coming up on several institutions' campuses? Can we really address this at a national scale? When we think about the early recruiting model, and I know we're switching a little bit, but with the early recruiting model, that's something that we were constantly seeing, where students were committing to institutions, before they'd even started high school. So you're thinking, we're having that coaches that feel this pressure to go out and actively recruit before they can truly understand the admissibility of a prospect. And so when we're thinking about that, that's something of national significance that we're seeing across the board. I'll tell you one, I had the pleasure of drafting a legislative proposal at Colgate where, we were one of several institutions that didn't offer summer school. And it was something, we had several legislative relief waivers in order to allow us to have summer access for our programs despite not having summer school. And it was something where I was like, I wanted a challenge in drafting this legislative proposal. And mind you, not national significance. We're talking about, a handful of institutions that don't offer it, but it was important to us. And so when I think about that, that was something that my coaches wanted me to really advocate for and really serve as that voice. And so when I'm thinking about that it may not be a pain point on everybody else's campus, but this is something that we're truly passionate about. And it's always that old adage of you miss 100% of the shots you don't shoot. We wanted to make sure that at least it's on people's radar. If we put this in front of people and they see that this is a pain point, then they have to talk about it, and then they have to address it, and then it could have gone another way where it wasn't passed, and we would have been okay with that, knowing that we at least took the opportunity and took the time to draft up something and share with people why this was something of importance to us. And when I think about that, a lot of times when working as compliance administrators, that's what you want to do. Your coaches are constantly coming to you about certain things because it is important to them. And if you can find a way to alleviate that pain, even if it's for a moment, it's something that they'll see
feel
you
like
as
something was being done.
Right. They'll see you as somebody of value, and in doing so, it creates that relationship where if you need them and you're working with them, they recognize that you're on their side.
Right. Excellent. Did that go through when you passed that up?
Yeah, no, actually it did. So it is now in bylaw 17. So now, Colgate, shout out to the Colgate Raiders up there. They actually had a fantastic football season. It went through, and now they have that, and it's something where, you can look back and you see that they have that up there for their process, and they have that that legislation is something in writing, and it's something where you see may not be national significance, but I can tell you there are a lot of people up there who know that it is extremely significant to them.
Right. But here's the thing, it's a point of pride for you too. You probably won't say that, but it is a point of pride for you too, right?
A lot of people have been influential in my career, and a lot of help, from a conference, from friends at the national office who were able to advise me on, what I needed to say in terms of the rationale, what did I need to tie it into in terms of, this is how it's going to best serve you. And, in that, when you see the governance process kind of play out, it's kind of, you take a step back and you realize like, wow, like, okay, you see it through every single step, through the commentary period, through the, the dialogue that you have at your conference level in order to ensure that, okay, I'm thinking about this completely the right way, and making sure that as you're taking each and every step, you're seeing it inching closer to approval. You can kind of get that excitement about like, man, okay, now that I see the process, I'm now comfortable doing it the next time around, or being able to advise the next time around.
It's funny to me, and I'll wrap with this, but it's funny to me to think about compliance people looking through the book like, oh, yeah, I wrote that. I got one of these in the book here. That's right there. You see that right there?
Yeah, no, it's a great thing. But, a lot of, like I said, when I think about that, it's a point of pride, but it's a point of, it's a shared accomplishment. It is definitely a shared accomplishment amongst so many other people who had an opportunity to really play a part in this and get it passed.
They did, and you've given back to the industry too, man. Well, Taurian, this has been an excellent conversation. I really appreciate you joining us here on One Question.
Thank you, Ty. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
That was Taurian Houston. He is the Associate Athletic Director for Compliance at Rice University. And of course, this is Ty Brown with One Question. And keep in mind, the role of a leader is to create and maintain an environment that people want to be a part of. And as always, be better tomorrow than you are today. This episode of One Question is produced by Spades Media Group, solving problems using creative leadership.